Kinds of companies under the Companies Act, 2013 1. Public company, Sec. 271. A public company means a company which is not a private company, and has a minimum paid-up share capital as may be prescribed, no fixed limit under amended rules. A private company which is a subsidiary of a public company is also treated as a public company in law. Key features: minimum 7 members, no restriction on transfer of shares, can invite the public to subscribe for shares or debentures, must have at least 3 directors. 2. Private company, Sec. 268. A private company is a company which has 1. Minimum 2 members, 2. Restrictions on transfer of shares, 3. Prohibits invitation to the public to subscribe for its securities, 4. Minimum paid-up share capital is prescribed, no fixed minimum now. Key features: maximum 200 members, excluding employees. At least 2 directors required. More confidential and closely held structure. 3. Holding company, Sec. 246. A holding company means a company that controls another company, called its subsidiary. Control may be through holding more than 50% of total voting power, or controlling the composition of the board of directors. 4. Subsidiary company, Sec. 287. A company is a subsidiary of another company, holding company, when the holding company controls more than 50% of its voting power, or controls the board of directors. Note: layers of subsidiaries are restricted for certain classes of companies under Sec. 186. 5. Limited and unlimited companies, Sec. 292, a company limited by shares. Liability of each member is limited to the amount unpaid on the shares he holds. B. Company limited by guarantee, Sec. 221. Members guarantee to contribute a specified amount in case of winding up. Used for non-profit organizations, clubs, societies. C. Unlimited company. Members have unlimited liability, meaning personal assets may be used to satisfy company debts. 6. Shareholding company and guarantee company, Sec. 221 and 222. Company limited by guarantee, Sec. 221. Members guarantee a fixed amount to be contributed at winding up. Often not for profit. Company having share capital, Sec. 222. A company formed with a share capital structure, i.e., it issues shares. Applies to most private, public companies. 7. Small company, Sec. 285. A small company is a private company that satisfies the following limits, as per latest MCA notification. Paid-up capital is less than or equal to 4 crore rupees, and turnover is less than or equal to 40 crore rupees, based on previous financial year. Not applicable to public companies, holding or subsidiary companies. Section 8 companies. Companies governed by special acts. Benefits: lesser compliance, no requirement of cash flow statement, lower penalties. 8. One-person company, OPC, Sec. 262. An OPC is a company that has only one member. Key features: can be formed as private company. Only one shareholder, but up to 15 directors allowed. No minimum paid-up capital. Useful for small entrepreneurs. Relaxations: no AGMs required. Lesser annual filings. Conversion between OPC and private, public company allowed subject to turnover limits. Summary table, quick revision. Type: section. Key feature: public company. Sec. 271, no limit on members, can invite public. Private company. Sec. 268, max 200 members, no public issue. Holding company. Sec. 246, controls another company. Subsidiary company. Sec. 287, controlled by holding company. Limited company. Sec. 292, liability limited to shares, guarantee. Guarantee company. Sec. 221, members guarantee amount on winding up. Company with share capital. Sec. 222, formed with share capital. Small company. Sec. 285, paid up is less than or equal to 4 crore rupees, turnover is less than or equal to 40 crore rupees. One-person company. Sec. 262, only one member. If you want, I can prepare Short notes for exam answer. 1. Government company, Section 245. A government company means any company in which a. The central government, or b. Any state government, or c. Both central and one or more state governments hold not less than 51% of the paid-up share capital. Includes. A subsidiary of a government company is also treated as a government company. Key features, significance. Subject to CAG, Controller and Auditor General, Audit, Sec. 139, 5, and 139, 7. CAG may direct the manner of audit. Certain exemptions available from Companies Act compliance via MCA notifications. Often used to run public sector undertakings, PSUs, such as ONGC, GAIL, VAIL, etc. Examples: ONGC Limited, Coal India Limited, NTPC Limited, BSNL, etc. Government holds 51% plus. 2. Foreign company, Section 242. A foreign company means any company or body corporate that a. is incorporated outside India, and b. has a place of business in India, by itself or through an agent, physically or through electronic mode, and c. conducts any business activity in India. Key points: must comply with Chapter 22, Sections 379 to 393, including o. filing business documents and financial statements with ROCO, maintaining books of account in India or displaying the name and country of incorporation or appointing authorized representatives in India. Covers e-commerce or digital presence also, after 2013 definition, e.g. Amazon, Google, Facebook if registered entities operate in India. Foreign company does not equal subsidiary of foreign company. A subsidiary incorporated in India is not a foreign company. It is an Indian company, even if 100% foreign-owned. Short summary for revision. Type of company section. Definition highlight. Government company 245, 51% or more capital held by central, state government, includes subsidiaries. Foreign company 242, incorporated outside India plus has place of business in India plus conducts business physically or electronically. If you want, I can add case laws. Flowchart for both definitions. Here is a clear, crisp, exam-ready case note on State Trading Corporation of India Limited v. Commercial Tax Officer, A. 1963 South Carolina 811, a landmark judgment on whether a government company is a state or citizen under the Constitution. State Trading Corporation of India Limited v. Stowe, A. 1963 South Carolina 811 *. Court, Supreme Court of India. Bench, 7-Judge Constitution Bench. Key issue: whether a government company, State Trading Corporation of India Limited, is 1. a citizen of India under Article 19, and 2. whether it is state under Article 12 of the Constitution. Facts: the State Trading Corporation, STC, was a company incorporated under the Companies Act. Though incorporated as a company, it was fully owned and controlled by the Government of India. STC claimed protection of Article 19, 1g, freedom to trade, and challenged the levy of tax by the commercial tax officer. The dispute centered on whether a government-owned company could claim fundamental rights available only to citizens. Issues for determination: 1. Is a company incorporated under the Companies Act a citizen under Article 19? 2. Can a company, because it is wholly government-owned, be treated as state under Article 12? Held, Supreme Court ruling 1. A company is not a citizen, cannot claim Article 19 rights. The court held that citizenship is a concept applicable only to natural persons, not to juristic persons like companies. A corporation, even if 100% government-owned, cannot be a citizen, and cannot claim rights under Article 19. Therefore, STC cannot invoke Article 19, 1g. 2. A government company is not automatically state under Article 12. The mere fact that the government owns the entire share capital or has deep control does not convert a company into a state under Article 12. The legal personality of a company is distinct from that of the government, separate legal entity principle from Salomon v. Salomon upheld. Thus, STC was not considered state. Ratio decidendi. A company incorporated under the Companies Act has a separate legal personality distinct from its shareholders, even if the sole shareholder is the government. Only natural persons are citizens, and corporations are not entitled to protections under Article 19. Government ownership does not automatically bring a company within Article 12, unless it satisfies additional tests: functional, financial, administrative control, later evolved in R. D. Shetty and Ajay Hansia. Significance of the judgment. The case laid the foundation for the constitutional status of government companies. It clarified that government companies cannot claim Article 19 rights. Government-owned corporations are not automatically state. Later judgments expanded Article 12 to include instrumentalities and agencies of the state, but this case remains the starting point. Exam-oriented short note, 3 to 5 marks. In STCV. Stowe, AIR 1963 South Carolina 811, the Supreme Court held that a company registered under the Companies Act is not a citizen and cannot claim rights under Article 19. Even complete government ownership does not make such a company a state. Under Stowe, AIR 1963 South Carolina 811, the Supreme Court held that a company registered under the Companies Act is not a citizen and cannot claim rights under Article 19. Even complete government ownership does not make such a company a state. Under Article 12. The court emphasized the separate legal entity doctrine and refused to equate a government-owned corporation with the state. This decision formed the basis for later expansion of Article 12 through the instrumentality or agency test. If you want, here is a clear, concise, exam-oriented case brief of Tata Engineering and Locomotive Company Limited, Telco v. State of Bihar, Air 1965 SC40. Telco v. State of Bihar, Air 1965 South Carolina 40 *. Court, Supreme Court of India. Key issue: whether a company incorporated under the Companies Act can claim fundamental rights under Article 19 of the Constitution. Facts: Telco was a company incorporated under the Companies Act, engaged in manufacturing automobiles in Jamshedpur, Bihar. Certain actions of the Bihar government were alleged to violate TELCO's fundamental rights under Article 19, 1(f), right to property, and Article 19, 1(g), right to trade. Telco filed a petition claiming its fundamental rights were infringed. Main issue: can a corporation, company, be considered a citizen? Main issue: can a corporation, company, be considered a citizen for purposes of Article 19? Held, Supreme Court ruling. 1. A company is not a citizen. Right pointing arrow cannot claim Article 19 rights. Following the reasoning in State Trading Corporation v. Stowe, 1963, the court reaffirmed that rights under Article 19 are available only to citizens, i.e., natural persons. A corporation is a juristic person, not a natural person. Therefore, a company cannot complain of a breach of Article 19. Thus, Telco cannot claim violation of Article 19, 1(f), or 19, 1(g). 2. Shareholders' rights does not equal companies' rights. The company argued that since its shareholders were citizens, the company should also be treated as such. Shareholders' rights does not equal companies' rights. The company argued that since its shareholders were citizens, the company should also be treated as such. The court rejected this argument, holding that a company has a separate legal personality distinct from its shareholders. Shareholder citizenship does not convert the company into a citizen. Ratio decidendi. Article 19 rights are conferred only on citizens, natural persons. Companies cannot claim citizenship, nor can they enforce Article 19 freedoms. Companies may enforce other fundamental rights, e.g., Article 14, Article 21, but not Article 19. Significance: Telco case reaffirmed and strengthened the ruling in State Trading Corporation, 1963. Established that corporations cannot invoke Article 19, even if all shareholders are citizens, or the company is fully Indian-controlled. Clear articulation of separate legal entity doctrine in constitutional context. Exam-oriented short note, 3 to 5 marks. In TELCOV. State of Bihar, AIR 1965 South Carolina 40, the Supreme Court held that a company registered under the Companies Act is not a citizen and therefore cannot claim fundamental rights under Article 19. The court reaffirmed that Article 19 rights are available only to natural persons. It rejected the contention that a company should be treated as a citizen because its shareholders are citizens, emphasizing the separate legal personality of a corporation. The case follows State Trading Corporation v. Stowe and forms a foundational principle in corporate constitutional law. If you want, I can also prepare comparison between STC, 1963, and Telco, 1965. A combined short note for companies in Article 19 inches for exams. Here is a clear, exam-oriented case brief of R.C. Cooper v. Union of India 1970-3 S.C.R. 530, also known as the bank nationalization case. This is one of the most important constitutional law judgments in India. R.C. Cooper v. Union of India 1970-3 S.C.R. 530, a 1970 South Carolina 564, 11-judge Constitution Bench. Background. In 1969, the Government of India passed the Banking Companies, Acquisition and Transfer of in the Takings, Ordinance, later replaced by the Act, nationalizing 14 major private banks. R.C. Cooper, a shareholder of a nationalized bank, challenged the Act as violating fundamental rights. Core issues. 1. Whether a shareholder can challenge state action on the ground that the company's fundamental rights are violated. 2. Whether nationalization violated Article 31, right to property, and Article 19, 1, F, and G. 3. Whether the object and form of legislation is relevant in judging violation of fundamental rights. Held, Supreme Court Judgment 1. Shareholder can challenge state action right pointing arrow, doctrine of direct effect. The court overruled earlier cases like State Trading Corporation v. Stowe, 1963, and Telco v. State of Bihar, 1965, on this point. Key ruling. A shareholder may challenge a law if his own rights are directly and personally affected, even if the company is the immediate subject of legislation. This is the doctrine of direct impact effect. 2. Rights under Article 19 can be enforced if the impact is on the shareholder. Although a company is not a citizen and cannot claim Article 19 rights, a shareholder is a citizen, and if the law affects his property and business interests directly, he may challenge it. 3. Nationalization Act violated Article 31, to invalid. The court held the Act unconstitutional because Nationalization Act violated Article 31, to invalid. The court held the Act unconstitutional because compensation provided was illusory and not based on the principle of compensation. The method adopted was arbitrary, violating the constitutional requirement that compensation be based on a relevant principle. Thus, the Act violated Article 31, 2, and was struck down. 4. Effect, and not object or form, of the law is the test. This is the most important ratio of the case. The court held that to determine violation of fundamental rights, what matters is the effect of the law on the individual, not the form or object of the law. This became a core principle of rights adjudication. Ratio decidendi, key principles. 1. Doctrine of direct effect. Fundamental rights violations are to be judged by the effect of state action on the rights of individuals, not on the entity targeted. 2. Shareholder standing. Shareholders can maintain an action for violation of their own rights even if the company is the direct target. 3. Compensation under Article 31, 2, must be real and based on a relevant principle. 4. Introduced shift from the object and form test to the effects test. Importance of the judgment. A turning point in Indian constitutional law. Later influenced cases like O. Menka Gandhi v. Union of India, 1978, O. Bennett Coleman v. Union of India, 1973, Freedom of Press and Corporate Rights. Strengthened the liberal interpretation of fundamental rights. Expanded judicial review against economic legislation. Exam-oriented short note, 3 to 5 marks. In R.C. Cooper v. Union of India, 1970, the Supreme Court struck down the Bank Nationalisation Act for violating Article 31(2). The court held that in judging violation of fundamental rights, the effect of state action on the individual is crucial, not the form or object of the law. Importantly, it overruled earlier cases and held that a shareholder may challenge state action if his own rights are directly affected, even though the company itself is not a citizen under Article 19. The case laid down the doctrine of direct effect and became foundational for later rights-expansive judgments. If you want, I can also prepare a comparison. STC, 1963, right-pointing arrow Telco, 1965, right-pointing arrow RC Cooper, 1970, evolution of corporate rights, just tell me. Here is a clear, exemplary comparison showing the evolution of corporate rights under the Constitution from State Trading Corporation, 1963, right-pointing arrow Telco, 1965, right-pointing arrow RC Cooper, 1970. Perfect for 5 mark or 10 mark answers. Star evolution of corporate rights under the Constitution. Keycap 1 State Trading Corporation v. Stowe, 1963. Position of law, initial view, narrow. A company is not a citizen and cannot claim Article 19 rights. Government ownership does not make a company, state, under Article 12. Shareholders' rights do not merge with companies' rights. Key principle. Companies cannot claim Art. 19 rights. Shareholders cannot complain for violation of companies' rights. Corporate personality is separate and distinct. Keycap 2 TELCOV. State of Bihar, 1965. Position of law reaffirmed. Followed STC, 1963. Again held that a corporation is not a citizen, therefore cannot invoke Article 19. Shareholder citizenship does not confer Article 19 rights on the company. Key principle. No Art. 19 Protection for companies. Shareholder rights do not automatically stand violated when the company is affected. Keycap 3 RC Cooper v. Union of India, 1970, Bank Nationalisation Case. Transformational judgment, overruled earlier doctrine. Even if the company is not a citizen, a shareholder is a citizen. If the effect of state action infringes the shareholder's Article 19 rights, right-pointing arrow he can challenge the law. Important innovations. Doctrine of direct effect, rights judged by effect on individual, not form. Shareholder standing recognized if their own rights are impacted. Shift from object, form, right-pointing arrow, effect, impact, test. Opened the path for later liberal rights cases, e.g., Bennett Coleman, Menka Gandhi. Comparative table, must write in exams. Case, issue, court's view, key outcome. STC, 1963, can companies claim Article 19? Company does not equal citizen. Companies cannot invoke Art. 19. Company does not equal citizen. Companies, STC, 1963, can companies claim Article 19? Company does not equal citizen. Companies cannot invoke Art. 19. Telco, 1965, do shareholders' rights allow company to claim Art? 19. Reaffirmed STC shareholder citizenship does not equal company citizenship. RC. Cooper, 1970. Can shareholders challenge state action affecting the company? Overruled earlier approach. Shareholders can challenge. Effect on individual rights matters. Star evolution, in simple words. Before 1970, a company has no rights under Article 19 right-pointing arrow shareholders cannot complain. After RC Cooper, a shareholder can challenge state action if his rights under Article 19 are affected, even if the law directly targets the company. This created the modern foundation for corporate participation in fundamental rights litigation. Exam ready 1 paragraph conclusion. The journey from STCV. Stowe, 1963, and Telco, 1965, to RC Cooper, 1970, shows a shift from a formalistic approach to a rights-oriented, effect-based approach. While STC and Telco treated companies as non-citizens incapable of invoking Article 19 and denied shareholder standing, RC Cooper revolutionized constitutional doctrine by holding that fundamental rights adjudication must depend on the effect of the law on individuals, not its form. Thus, shareholders could now challenge state action that impaired their personal rights, marking the beginning of a more expansive and liberal interpretation of fundamental rights. If you want, I can also provide a flowchart of evolution. A 10-marker model answer. MCQs based on these cases. Just tell me. Here is a clear, concise, exam-ready case brief of CITV. Meenakshi Mills Limited, A 1967 South Carolina 819-19671, S.C.R. 934, an important judgment explaining when the corporate veil may be lifted, especially in tax matters. Cit v. Meenakshi Mills Limited. A 1967 South Carolina 819-1967, 1934 Seychelles Rupees *. Court, Supreme Court of India. Subject area, Company Law, Corporate Veil, Tax Avoidance. Star. Facts. Meenakshi Mills Limited, a textile company, created several intermediary or facade companies. These entities were used to reduce taxable profits of the parent company. The Income Tax Department argued that these arrangements were sham or colorable devices created only for tax reduction, not for genuine business purposes. The company argued that each entity was a separate legal person, and profits should be assessed separately. Star issues. 1. Can the income tax authorities lift the corporate veil to determine the real nature of transactions? 2. Were the intermediary companies genuine, or mere instruments to avoid tax liability? Star held, Supreme Court ruling. 1. Courts can lift the corporate veil in cases of tax avoidance. The Supreme Court held that separate corporate personality is not absolute. When the form is used to achieve an improper or illegal purpose, especially evasion of tax, the corporate veil may be lifted. 2. If companies are created as a device, their separate existence can be ignored. If entities are mere puppets, shams, or masking devices, they may be disregarded. The real nature of the transaction must be uncovered. 3. Tax authorities can look beyond legal form to actual substance. The court allowed the department to penetrate the veil to examine the control of the parent company, the real flow of income, and the actual purpose behind creation of subsidiaries. Star ratio decidendi. Corporate veil may be lifted when the corporate structure is abused to evade law or commit fraud. Tax authorities are empowered to disregard corporate personality when entities are created solely for tax avoidance without legitimate business purpose. The court emphasized substance over form. Star importance of the case. This case is a leading authority in India on lifting the corporate veil in taxation. Frequently cited in O Company Law, Illegal Purpose, Sham Companies, O Tax Law, Colorable Devices. Strengthened judicial scrutiny of artificial arrangements created only to avoid taxation. Star exam-oriented short note, 3 to 5 marks. In CITV. Meenakshi Mills Limited. 1967. The Supreme Court held that although a company has a separate legal personality, this veil may be lifted if the company form is misused to evade tax or perpetrate fraud. The court ruled that tax authorities may examine the real nature of transactions and disregard intermediary companies that serve no genuine business purpose but exist solely as devices for tax avoidance. The decision is a landmark ruling supporting the doctrine of substance over form in corporate and tax law. If you want, I can prepare a comparison of Meenakshi Mills with Dinshaw Manekji Petty, 1927, another major tax avoidance case. A short one-page summary for exam answers. Just tell me. Here is a clear, structured, exam-oriented case brief of Kapila Hingorani v. State of Bihar, 2003-6 S.C.C. 1, a landmark judgment where the Supreme Court recognized the concept of state liability for non-payment of salaries and introduced the idea that the state can be treated as a shareholder in government companies for enforcement of fundamental rights. Kapila Hingorani v. State of Bihar, 2003-6 S.C.C. 1, Right to Life and Salary Non-Payment Case. Background. Many public sector undertakings, PSUs, in Bihar collapsed in the 1990s. Employees were not paid salaries for months, years. The resulting starvation deaths and suicides prompted public interest litigation by Kapila Hingorani, an advocate. Issues 1. Whether the state of Bihar can be held responsible for the financial collapse of its government companies or corporations. 2. Does non-payment of salary to employees of public sector corporations violate Article 21, Right to Life? 3. Can the state be compelled to release funds even though the companies are separate legal entities? Held, Supreme Court Judgment, KCAP 1 State can be held responsible for government companies' failure. Although PSUs are separate legal entities, the state of Bihar, or owned them, or controlled their management, or appointed their directors, and or was responsible for their financial health. Therefore, the state cannot escape constitutional responsibility. KCAP 2 Non-payment of salary right pointing arrow violation of Article 21, Right to Life. The court held that salary is essential for livelihood. Failure to pay employees for months, years amounts to violation of Article 21. Right to life includes right to livelihood, right to live with human dignity, right to timely payment of wages. KCAP 3 Corporate veil lifted, state liability imposed. The court lifted the corporate veil of loss-making public sector corporations and held the state is answerable for the debts and salary obligations of its instrumentalities. The state cannot hide behind the separate corporate personality of statutory corporations or government companies. KCAP 4 State directed to release funds. The court directed the state of Bihar to disburse salaries and take measures to prevent future violations. Ratio decidendi. State is constitutionally responsible for ensuring that its employees, even in government companies, corporations, receive their salaries. Corporate veil can be lifted when the state uses corporations as a shield to avoid constitutional obligations. Non-payment of salary violates Article 21, and the state must ensure basic human dignity. The state cannot plead financial inability to avoid its public law obligations. Significance: why this case is important. Important for right to life jurisprudence, Art. 21. Recognized state's positive obligation to protect worker welfare. Strengthened accountability of state-owned corporations. Frequently cited in OPILS. O labor rights cases O corporate. Frequently cited in OPILS. O labor rights cases O corporate veil cases involving state entities O socioeconomic rights discussions. Exam-oriented short note, 3 to 5 marks. In Kapila Hingorani v. State of Bihar, 2003, the Supreme Court held that the state is responsible for ensuring payment of salaries to employees of its public sector in the takings. Although such corporations have separate legal personalities, the court lifted the corporate veil and held the state liable, as non-payment of salary violates the employee's right to life under Article 21. The state cannot escape constitutional responsibility by pleading financial incapacity or by hiding behind the separate corporate structure of the PSUs. If you want, I can also prepare a combined note on corporate veil against state, Meenakshi Mills plus Kapila Hingorani. A 10 marker on Article 21 and state liability. Just tell me.